Today's topic is file handling. It is a very important topic and it gives you some solid basic understanding of how to manipulate files in Python. So let's talk about the necessity of why this is required. Let's say you have certain data with you in writing, like pages of information. Where would you store it? Well, normally when we get a lot of pieces of paper with information in it, we store it in a file, right? And we keep it aside for use later and we take it out as necessary. Similarly, when you operate computers, you have data which needs to be stored somewhere. Now, the place where this data is stored, for example, your PDF files, your Excel sheets, all of these are data files. They contain some kind of data. So let's talk about that today. Data files. So, what are data files? Data files are well, as you can guess, they are the files that store some data. Files that store data. But what data do they store? Well, they store data pertaining to or relating to some specific application. So it could be your WhatsApp, for example, the documents that you download, they are stored somewhere on your mobile devices or on your desktop. So they pertain to that particular application, right? So data files are the files that store data pertaining to a specific application. Okay. Now, what are the different types of data files? Well, there are many kinds, but today we look at two, right? So we are going to look at number one, text files, and number two, binary files. What's the difference between both? We'll come to that shortly. But first, I want you to think about this. When I say text files, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Right? It should probably be something along the lines of files which store text. And when you see the word binary, what does that mean to you? Well, in lower classes, you might have learned that binary is used to refer to two digits, 0 and 1, which the computer uses to process. And that is roughly exactly what we will deal with. So here we can divide our text files into two further categories: regular text files and delimited text files. And then our binary files are of only one type. So what are regular text files and delimited text files? Well, regular text files are those which store information in the form of a stream of ASCII characters. A lot of jargon. Let's break that down. So, first, what are ASCII characters? ASCII stands for American Standard Code for Information Interchange, right? This basically assigns a particular numeric value to each character that you see in your keyboard and much more, right? So for example, the capital letter A, or let's start small, let's start with the small letter A, has a value of 97, right? So just like this, there are a lot of characters, all the characters that you see on your keyboard, on your phones, laptops, all of them have a particular ASCII value. Now, this is what ASCII means. Let's go back to the definition. Regular text files are those which store information as a stream of ASCII characters. So that means they store data as ASCII characters one after the other, right? Now, um, each line in such a kind of file is terminated. That means ended with a specific character called EOL. end of line character. Right now you might have seen this EOL character in your Python programming experience. It is none other than your \n. So your \n is a EOL character. So whenever the computer encounters this EOL character, it automatically moves to the next line. This was the first type of text file. Let's talk about the second type of text file, which is your delimited text file. What does delimited text file stand for? Delimited text files use a specific character to separate the values that they have. Okay? A delimited text file uses a specific character to separate its values. What does that mean? Let's consider an example. He, comma, is, comma, a, comma, student. Here, your comma is separating the values. So the comma in this case is the delimiting character, right? Now it's not necessary only a comma has to be the delimiting character. It can be anything, right? You as the programmer is going to be setting this. Okay, it could be a tab, so like 4 spaces, a tab separated value as the delimiter. In this case, since we used a comma, we call this a CSV, comma separated value file. Let's talk about extensions of how they're saved. So when you save a file in your computer, like let's say you download an image from the internet, if you look at the end of the name, there is a .png or JPG. These are all extensions. They tell you the type of file it is. So now when you look at the files in your computer, if you see a .txt extension, .txt, that means it's a text file. Okay? But if you see a .csv, what does that mean? Well, that means it is a CSV file, comma separated value file, just like we discussed. Okay, let's move on to binary. What is binary files? Well, binary files are those files which store information in a stream of bits. Binary files are those files which store information in a stream of bits, that is in as 01010101. If you were to open a binary file directly, you would not be able to understand what is written in it because your data has been encoded as zeros and ones, right? Now there is no delimiter for these kind of files, and it is said to have raw content that is not really readable to humans, right? So these were the two different types of files broadly, and that is what we will be covering in this series for file handling.